Good morning, friends. Welcome you all on the platform of Drishti IAS. My name is Praveen Kumar Pandey. I'm a senior faculty here and I take Indian Society and Social Justice in General Studies. Today, we are going to analyze 2020 mains questions on social justice. So, here, like UPSC examination, 2020 analysis of questions related to social justice. Before taking questions, we'll take trend analysis. What is the pattern in which the questions have been put in, and particularly in this section, in paper 2? Well, so you'll find, almost with a little difference. Questions of marking pattern has been there, like in 2013 60 marker questions, then in 2014 a little jump, 87.5, 75, 50, 85, 50, 75, and this year it is 55 questions. Total 4 questions have been there this year. Total 4 questions. Number of questions related to different topics is put in here. So accordingly, you can find which area is most important. Like in 2014, you'll find from this area issues related to government policies for development and their implementation. There has been 4 questions, and total 7 questions have been there that year. And so far, maximum marks question were asked in the year 2014. So there is a little variation. But anyway, this topic is sound, very important, and most importantly, UPSC asks very good questions related to all the topics, and in fact, even this topic as well. Generally, people take it as a simple topic, whether it is Indian society or social justice. But when you see the questions, you would never find this topic as so simple as it is assumed. So let's see, after this, let's see questions. And the first question is, in order to enhance the prospects of social development, sound and adequate healthcare policies are needed, particularly in the fields of geriatric and maternal health care. Discuss. Well, in order to enhance prospects of social development, sound and adequate healthcare policies are required, are needed, and particularly in the field of this geriatric, means for aging population, and maternal health care. So these are the highlights of the question, and accordingly we have to discuss, we'll have to find out the proper answer. What inputs are required, that is something which I'm going to discuss, and accordingly you'll have to complete your answer. Well, as far as social development is concerned, for social development, we require the inputs from each and every field. One area, one component is never sufficient. Social development means the development of society entirely in a holistic manner. So when you take it in a holistic manner, and that exactly is called social development, it means that we need to touch each and every component what comes under society. In fact, each and everything comes under society. But in the question, only one area is touched, and that is healthcare. So it is said that we require sound and adequate healthcare policies. Again, the question has put in some limitations. Sound and adequate healthcare policy, that is not the everything. Now, limitation is that in 2 areas, that is in geriatric and maternal healthcare. In 2 areas, we require the related policy. Means you'll have to write your answer according to the things which are put in the question, the way it is asked. You'll have to put up your pen, and in that way you answer. Right? So let's be limited, focused in answer writing. So don't write each and everything. What is required, you'll have to write your answer, what is required here. Let's take first the issues related to geriatric. The aging population, aged people in our family, in our societies, communities, in our district, state, and country as a whole. We require these people for various reasons. Their role is vital in the development of different areas, particularly in social and cultural aspects and political aspect. Not much, but of course not zero. Not much in the field of economy, but no doubt in these three fields it is very, very important. They are guardians to us. They act as, they provide their mentorship, their experience, and that will lead us to move ahead in each and every field, in each and every area. In bringing unity and solidarity in society, their role is very, very important. In the field of associations, councils, they have been prominent earlier. Traditionally, we have been prominent. And today, they give us lesson how further we can create such associations which are very, very positive in developmental process. It is not likely that you create an association and that is going to be highly negative, and so it would obstruct the development process. No. With their maturity, they provide us all these things. In politics, we experience, we have witness of their experience, their activities, and overall how it is important in nation building. So of course, it is very important for them to live healthy, to have proper health as such, and so we require adequate policy. But the reality is that in due course of time, the kind of development we have today and its consequences, that has badly affected our ideas, our thinking, and so our different activities related to family and other areas. The families are squeezed. We have moved towards or moving towards nuclear families. So the role of aged people, that is very, very low. They are being isolated, alienated from the families, from the society. So all these problems are coming up as part of consequence of the kind of development we have. Right? Well, once you go ahead for a nuclear family, you do not care for the aged people in your family, it will create a lot of problems to them. They have no doubt they're suffering from the aging process. Their physical health, mental health is deteriorating. So overall, they require support from all of us, and once they do not get that support, it is very difficult for them to survive. There is one NGO, Help Age India, that's working for these people only. And in times, it gives us its report based on various issues related to these people. In 2019, a recent report we have in 2019 on elderly abuse. Before that also we had, like in 2015, we had one such elaborate description of what problems these people are facing, that was provided there, in which it was given that that time in 2015 that out of 10 crore aging people means those who are above 64 years. So out of 10 crore such people, 55%, 5.55 crore, 55 million people, 55 million aged people, they sleep without taking meal. Just see the pathetic condition. 30% people, they live without any support. They might be prosperous people, a few of them, but most of them are really poor people, and some of them, they are on the roads, having no care at all, completely isolated. They are being abused. 80% of 80 plus population is being abused. 50% of that abuse is done in the family itself and by their own sons. We are going to have 4.8 crore such people, 80 years plus, in the year 2050 or post 2050, we are going to have 48 million such people in India. So their number is increasing. But altogether, abuse on them is also increasing. There's something which is very, very pathetic and should not be done. So all these, we require sound policy, adequate policy for them. Apart from that, there was one report in 2019 wherein it was put in by Helpage India itself, Helpage India. The report is quite authentic, it's accepted. So I'm putting here. So it is given in that report, in 2019 report, that 70% people, they feel isolated. They are not, even though they are in the family, but they do not get proper care from the members of that family. So feel isolated. 55% of the caregivers, those who take care of these people, they consider the support which they provide them, they consider the support as burden. They consider the same as burden over their heads. 60.7 such caretakers, they feel tired, frustrated because they have to take care of these people. Right? And 39% such aged people, they do not have any monthly income of their own in any form. That is something which is going all against these people, and so it would definitely badly affect our social development process. In 2015 report, one more point was mentioned, that the contribution of Government of India for these people, particularly to provide them pension in social security, that too is very poor. Like the Indian government provides only 0.032% of its GDP for their pension or social security. 0.032%. And in that way, they cover only 29% of such population. However, the Thailand government provides 0.324% of its GDP. Just look at it. And in that way, they are covering 94% of such population. So that is definitely not adequate. Apart from that, those who are isolated, who are left to live alone, again, because of the budgetary constraint, the government of India is unable to provide them homes, and so they are on the roads. Once we found the problem areas, accordingly we can go for making the sound and adequate policies. Areas are marked, the problem areas are marked, and accordingly you have to provide the related policy. The role in inculcating values in the society among children, young children, is again very, very important. But only when they are given that opportunity. Since we have taken them away from all those areas, that role is shrinked, and there are no more there to inculcate those things among the young minds. That is something which we require to do. I'll make a comparison with Japan, where the number of aged people that has increased in due course of time. Because of low fertility rate, TFR, total fertility rate, that is very low in Japan. That's a matter of concern also for the government, for the people, for the nation. So for that reason, the number of young population is decreasing. However, the number of aging population is increasing. So what Japanese government did, it provided opportunities for such people to take employment, and that way, not only that they would be self-dependent, but also they would contribute for the nation. That is something which we too require. It is expected that India may achieve the same thing, same problem in coming days. And as I have given you one data, that how in the year 2050, the population of 80 years plus people, that is going to be around 5 crores. If we take 64 plus, that is very high. So number of such people is immensely increasing. So we require to provide opportunities, employment opportunities to these people, the way it was done in Japan and other developed countries, so that not only that they are going to contribute for the economic prosperity of the nation, but also for themselves. They will become self-dependent. And now the people who are going to take care of these people, caretakers, they will not feel the same as burden. In one more report, it was shown that on an average, the expenses which are made on these people, aged people, on an average is around 4,000 per month. On an average. If they would earn something out of their employment, definitely it will not become a burden for the caretakers. So they really will not feel tired and frustrated. So these are the things that we require to put in, apart from to give them proper sound health. There's something, whenever we go for a policy, that policy is also supposed to be holistic. It is not just related to health, but related issues must be there. What affects health of the people? If economy affects health of the people, we definitely need to take care of same. Right? So that is. Apart from that, in health prospects, we need to cover all the people. Even, up to 70, we have provided healthcare facilities, but above that also we need to include. So that is something again, the way by the government, by the different private companies, they have been considered as vulnerable and not profitable. If they start providing them Mediclaim facilities, they know that these people would get hospitalized many times in a year, and that way it would be a loss to the companies. So because of this reason, generally they do not consider, they do not take these people, they do not provide Mediclaim to these people. But they must be provided with. If not those people, those private players, at least Government of India should take care of. So in that policy, these things must be included. If there is some problem, we need to adopt triple P model. There is the combination of public-private partnership, and in that way, again, it will not remain a burden either on the government or on the private players. Old age homes, they are really required. That too must be provided with the help of some concerned people out of their social responsibilities, corporate social responsibility. They must come forward, and of course government is taking care. So when both interests they come together, we have adequate number of old age homes, and these people will never feel isolated. They will never feel they will never find themselves on the roads, and that way will do a lot of good things for these people. So there's something that we'll have to do for geriatric. Now, second one is maternal health care. That is something which is related to the health of mothers. Those who are in the process of becoming mother, their health is very, very important. They are as good as any human being. Their role is important everywhere, not just because that they are going to be mother, but as a human being also, as a person. Yes, they are economic asset as well. Their role in politics is very important. Their role in not only in mothering, but also in all socio-cultural dimensions, their role is very, very important. So the health is important for the reason that still we have high number of maternal mortality rate. MMR in India still is very high. So for that, we require proper maternal health care. Well, no doubt, after National Rural Health Mission, we have achieved certain goals like Sustainable Development Goal, Millennium Development Goal, MDG, Millennium Development Goal 4 and 5. That is related to infant mortality rate and maternal health. That is to some extent achieved. We are on a good path, but still not completely. In 2000, we had a population policy wherein we set a target for 2010 that we'll have to reduce MMR and we'll have to bring it to the level of 100 per 1 lakh live births. 100 per 1 lakh live births. That time it was very high, it was around 400. But even today, in 2021 too, we haven't achieved that target. For that, to achieve the target, it was important to take such women, like those who are in mothering process. For delivery, they must be taken to the hospitals or at least primary health centers. In fact, in that policy, it was said that the delivery must be done under the supervision of health experts, 100%. And minimum 80% deliveries must be done at such institutions. Though that part we have achieved, that 80% is done at hospitals or PSCs, but still not 100%. We require 100%. We can't leave even a single person at home. The delivery should not be done, should not be completed at home. That is something which is leading to problems to both mother as well as child. And that is playing role in increasing the mortality rate at both the levels. Anyway, so achievement of 80% is good, but not still sufficient, not still adequate. We'll have to do that. We'll have to do something good. And for that, again, we require proper policies in this field as well. The role of ASHA activists, that too has played important role. But why still problem is there? Why still 20% people, they are not going to the hospitals? They do not take care. For first child, the concerned lady has gone there, but for second child did not go. Why? What is the problem? So there has been some problems related to various issues, like there has been, first of all, a regional imbalance, differences. Some areas, some states, they are prosperous. They have adequate technologies in nearby areas, hospitals. So it is easier for them, for women or concerned people, to take women to the hospitals or centers. But those who are poor, they can't do it. That is one system. Those ladies who are educated, aware about such policies, health issues, they get the benefit of the same. But those who are not educated, not aware, they do not get it. Apart from that, there is a problem related to some discrimination due to religion, caste. As clear that Muslim women, they are not doing, they're not as fair as other women are. SC women are not as fair as other women are. So somehow some discrimination is there. Problems are seen in all these ways. Apart from that, those who have access to media, they have proper knowledge and they use that knowledge. They get benefit of the same. Those who do not have proper access, do not have knowledge, and so do not get benefit of the same. That is another problem. One more thing, like those women who procreate so many times, I mean, where TFR, total fertility rate, is higher than other women. For first child, they are quite sensitive. But for second child onwards, they consider that now they are experienced. They will use that experience, and they are not going to have any problem. And for some, the problems definitely will come. So that is another problem which is seen. South India is fairly well in all these aspects in comparison to North India. I'll give one data, like in India today, MMR in India, it is 122 per 1 lakh live births, whereas in Kerala, it is just 30. You see the difference. We require such model. We need to empower women everywhere, even in North India. Proper education is important. The employment is important. So in that policy, if we take care of all these things, it would be a sound and adequate policy, and that would definitely provide proper maternal health care, and so it would contribute to the social development of India. So accordingly, you'll have to complete your answer. So this is first question. So next question is, the incidence and intensity of poverty are more important in determining poverty based on income alone. Is a sentence, quote unquote. In this context, analyze the latest United Nations Multidimensional Poverty Index report. See the highlights of the question. The incidence and intensity of poverty are more important in determining what? Poverty. Based on income alone. It says income alone. So this is a sentence. Do you agree with this sentence? Is it correct to say? But before showing you agreement or non-agreement, you need to take the help of this one. In this context, analyze the latest United Nations Multidimensional Poverty Index report, MPI. Multidimensional Poverty Index. This report, the latest report we had in 2019. What was there in that report? But before that, Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative OFI, and United Nations Development Program, UNDP, they together coined this term, and that they gave the concept Global Multidimensional Poverty Index, MPI, in 2010, and it was accepted by United Nations as well. In that, they have taken the help of three indicators, that is health, education, and standard of living. Health, education, and standard of living. 3 indicators, not a single one. In these 3 indicators, they have given 10 dimensions, 10 components. They gave 10 components. So that way it became multidimensional. In health, 2 important things, that is child mortality, and in fact child means up to, in this case, up to 18 years. In a family up to 18 years, that no child face this situation, death. Second one is nutrition, that in family, in some form, all members, they are getting nutritious food or not, whatever. So accordingly, poverty will be decided. Education, that none of the family members, they have been the beneficiary of 6 years of schooling. They did not attain school for 6 years, none of the family members, or at least one member. So accordingly, it would be decided. And second thing is that present time, no family member is in the age of going to the school, plus none of the family members, they attend that 6 years schooling. So that is something which is related to education. In living standard, many things were taken. 6 components have been taken. Cooking fuel, which fuel is still used for cooking purpose? Sanitation, what is the level of sanitation? Is any improvement in the same? In family, in surrounding, is any improvement? In the house or in surrounding? Then drinking water, benefit of electricity, use of electricity, is it there in the family? Apart from that, assets. First of all, housing. Some criteria is there related to housing. And assets. Assets means household gadgets, household assets, ranging from mere bicycle, radio, to larger ones. And out of these 10 components, poverty, the incidence and intensity of poverty will be decided. Where any incidence of poverty is there. So if a family is below all these norms, is not or otherwise deprived of all these things, definitely will be considered as poor. But earlier, a family which was a poor family but did something good in all these components and have gone up BPL, below poverty line, it means that intensity of poverty is getting lower. If more number of people are becoming poor, it means that on the one hand, how its incidence is seen and its intensity is increasing. But if some improvement is coming up, it means that intensity is going down. So that's why it is taken. In that report, in 2019 report, it is said that a single component is not sufficient to decide. And it is also mentioned that income alone is also not sufficient to decide it. What sentence says? The sentence says that based on income alone, the incidence and intensity of poverty are more important in determining poverty based on income alone. The report says that income alone cannot decide it. Just opposite. But we can take one important understanding idea. If we have income, if a family has income, then it would do fairly well in all the components. The members would get nutritious food. Children start going to the schools. They would be having housing and all other facilities. So it means that income is very important aspect. With the help of income, there is a possibility for that particular family to get all the facilities. That generally decides the incidence of poverty. So should we consider this one? Definitely we should. Why not? It's an important idea. But to understand it properly, we need to go in some sociological explanation, analysis. But before that, one more thing, like as far report is concerned, in report it is said that India is doing good. 10 countries where incidence of poverty was high was selected selected in this MPI, and it was shown that all those 10 countries were doing good, and of course India was also one of those. It is shown that in due course of time, 27 crore people, they have come out of the poverty conditions. Jharkhand state has done best out of all the regions, and like Ethiopia and Peru, India has also shown declining phase of the not only poverty but how people feel deprived. So deprivation is also declining. That was part of that report. Now the question, the main point is that, is income alone? Is income alone sufficient to decide poverty? And we have taken one consideration that if you have income, you can do good in all the areas. You'll get facilities in all the fields, all the areas. But as I told you, we need some sociological analysis, and for that we'll be taking two important aspects, that is culture of poverty and cultural reproduction. Culture of poverty. It would be very clear after that. Well, culture of poverty. It means that poverty is not just an incidence. In some cases, it becomes a culture as well, where number of people, they are poor. Generally, it is seen in slum areas, in cities, where people are very poor, and poverty for them becomes a culture. It means that they have created an environment wherein they find it comfortable to live in their limited income. If a family member who is earning 3,000 rupees a month, 4,000 rupees a month, but has made proper adjustment, proper means according to them, adjustment, how to live in that income, they do not feel any discomfort, and they do not require to earn something extra. They do not want to do any extra work for the same. Those people who are highly motivated, those who want to become prosperous, they work day and night. Even though it is, for health it is not correct, but still, I'm talking about the motivation of the people. Those who are highly motivated, they work day and night. They do not take care of their health, their body, their mind. The only thing is that this is my target. I'll have to achieve this target by this particular time. But those people, since it has become, poverty has become culture for them, they have learned how to live within that limited income. This is called culture of poverty. So they have no motivation at all. There is no motivation at all. Yes, there is creation of inertia. They do not work. extra, right? After that, one more thing. And so of course, they do not take care of their children, what they're doing. That could be understood in this way, like cultural reproduction. They do not take care of their children. They do not have sufficient money for educational investment. And so, those children, that is one. Second, that cultural reproduction means the kind of culture they have, they find some problem with the culture in the family or that society, that community, and the culture in the school. Big difference is there. And it is very difficult for children and parents to cope up with this difference. Very difficult. Children do not do good in education, in learning. And finally, dropout rate is very high. They leave the school. They do not go to higher level. Obviously, if you are uneducated, illiterate, or semi-educated, semi-literate, you have no opportunity to get good job. Finally, you're going to become a worker like your parents, your father. And that way, the child is going to reproduce that culture in his own life. This is called cultural reproduction. And this is, as a process, it is going on. Generation by generation, the same thing is going on. This is cultural reproduction. And in that way, intensity of poverty is increasing. But just because that there is a culture prevalent there, they do not have any motivation to grow in their own life. So when there is no motivation, only income is not sufficient. To change their mindset, we need to work on all the 10 components here. And then it becomes important that income alone is not sufficient. All these 10 components are maximum such components, not completely 10, but maximum components are very important. Once taken, then only we will be in a position to decrease the incidence of poverty and, of course, intensity of poverty. That's what we did. The government of India is working hard. The people, those who are concerned, the authorities concerned, they're working hard in all these components, all these fields. And that's the reason that both incidence and intensity of poverty is declining. Right? So that's the way you'll have to. One more thing, like to corroborate your answer, you can put one more thing, vicious cycle of poverty. So it's not just poverty which is taken, other things like in vicious cycle of poverty, malnutrition, illiteracy, and high population. 4 things are taken. So why not one thing? Why not only poverty? So poverty itself is not sufficient. Where there is poverty, you're going to be trapped in other things. You're going to be malnourished, you're going to be illiterate, and you're going to have more children. So it means that to remove poverty, we'll have to attack each and everything. We'll have to do something to provide them nutritious food, we'll have to provide education to them, and we'll have to give them knowledge, awareness, how to reduce overpopulation. To corroborate this one, we can put even this point as well. Vicious cycle of poverty. So it is in that way we'll have to discuss, we'll have to provide you answer. Fine? So that's the analysis discussion on the second question we have. So coming to next question. Microfinance as an anti-poverty vaccine is aimed at asset creation and income security of the rural poor in India. Evaluate the role of self-help groups, SHGs, in achieving the twin objectives along with empowering women in rural India. Well, the highlights: microfinance is like anti-poverty vaccine. and it is used for asset creation and income security. Income generation, income security of rural poor in India. The role of SHGs in achieving the twin objective means the same, that is asset creation and income security, along with empowering women in rural India. Well, we have, it's not a new concept. SHGs have been formed out of different schemes, programs. But to understand it, we need to take one recent program, and accordingly we'll try to analyze it, understand it. And that is Deen Dayal. You know what is self-help groups? Since you are at matured state, so you understand this one. Self-help groups, a group that is created, a small group that is created, 8-10 people. They help each other for some particular object, purpose is there, and the objective of that creation of this group is related to two things, two objectives, and that is asset creation and income generation. These two things are very important. So in that way, a group of such women, such people are created in villages. They are given some training, and after getting training, they require some fund because they are poor people. But the fund which is allocated to them, that is very small in nature, that is called microfinance. They use that fund is given on that community basis, like group basis, not given to any particular individual. It is given to the whole group as such. They will use that fund. Already they are trained. They will use that fund to purchase some inputs, raw materials, technology. They would furnish the same in some manufactured items. Those items will be sold in the market, and in that way they get some money. Out of that money they create some assets, and so in that way both the things are going on. Of course, the way it is going on, this is what is called empowerment. They are now becoming, they are securing themselves income wise, they are securing themselves economic wise, and in that way they are getting empowered. They are working now, they are earning now. So there is empowerment as well, empowerment of women. So it's a basic thing related to it. This is something which is not required for you to write it, because within 250 words you have to write your answer. So you have other inputs also. So there's so many inputs are there, the one that you need to take in writing. Okay. So let's see now. So as I told you, we already had so many schemes, but we need to take some new scheme, the one that is related to SHGs, self-help groups, and that is Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana. National Rural Livelihood Mission. In short, it is DAY. It was launched in the year 2015, and it is now expected that from each and every family in the village which is poor, or those who are willing, at least one member is attached to form self-help group, right? As far as microfinance is concerned, so they get it. This microfinance is the one that they get it from two, that is a revolving fund, RF, and Community Investment Fund, CIF. Up to 15,000 they get from revolving fund, and between 40 to 60,000 they get generally, on an average, they get from Community Investment Fund. Though it may go up to 2.5 lakhs, but generally they get in this particular form. So it's a small fund. This is given to them, and so it is called microfinance. So it is very, very important. Without this fund, they cannot work. But this fund is easily provided to them. Well, what is the purpose of this one? This fund? So as I told you, like they are already trained and they start working. They need to purchase some inputs, and then after, the objective is asset creation and income generation through self-employment. This is objective, and in that way, now it's very clear. Here's microfinance is to remove poverty of the people, of particularly women, aimed at asset creation one, and income security, so income generation through self-employment. So we have explained the statement, what exactly is given. Now let's see what is achievement of the same, what we have achieved. So we'll take one report that was published by NABARD in 2019. It is shown that there are more than 1 crore SHGs working in India, and that way they have included 12.4 crore families. 12.4 crore families. Good number of families are there. Total deposits out of their income, the one that they have generated, they have deposited 26,000 crores of rupees. Deposit is SHGs. Crores of rupees. However, women SHGs, the contribution of women SHGs is maximum 23,300 crores. $6.54 lakh SHGs have been attached with eShakti, online portal, online platform for their working conditions, what they achieve, what they do. So they have complete knowledge about it, and that is circulated uniformly to all. And this process is going on. More and more number of SHGs are coming up. They are being attached. That is another thing. Well, one more thing is very important. The NPA of these SHGs is 4.5%. What assets they have created, the loan they have, the loan which is granted to them, and what they have finally returned. Accordingly, NPA is decided. So that is just 4.5%. Just means why I'm using just. It is just because that this is part of this NABARD report itself. The NPA in our national banking sector is more than double of the NPA related to SHGs, more than 9%. They are very good in that part too. Fine. And what does it mean then? What we have, like the deposit, the income that they have generated, 26,000 crores of rupees. Least NPA, it means that there is good asset creation, income generation as well as asset creation that is done. Yes, now you are going through the question properly. But still, it is still not sufficient to pat those people, to thump up what they have done. We need something more. But what problems are coming up? Why we are not moving up more than this part? Because of certain things. And when we try to recognize the problem areas, first thing is that there is ignorance in the members or participants in SHGs. They are very poor, so ignorant people. Ignorance, that is one. They are not properly trained, inadequate training process, facilities. There are some problems related to raw materials, the one that they have to get, they are getting. A big problem related to marketing, what they have produced, what they have manufactured, they have created. When they put in the market, so many companies already they have manufactured, they have created very polished items. Their packaging is so good. The packaging is so good. However, the packaging which is done by SHGs is not that good. So generally, their goods are not appreciated by the people. Generally, it is not purchased by them. And of course, it is very difficult for them to do proper marketing. They do not have trained people in marketing as such. Many problems are coming related to marketing part. Apart from that, because of this, the income return is very poor. The one that already they have created, they have manufactured, they have created goods, but since it is not properly sold out, so return is very poor, very poor. Yes. Many more problems are there. Like those who are strong people in SHGs, they try to exploit the weaker ones. So also problem is there. There is least stability and unity among the members. Since it is related to women and there is a high chance of migration of women, at least after marriage there is migration. If husband is going somewhere, so women, they have to move. So they are vulnerable in that way. And so it is difficult for them to create stable system and unite each other. So there is a problem. In fund allocation, fund process, inadequate arrangement is there. Inadequate management is there. It's not properly given to the people, to such people, such groups. So problem is there. Yes. In many cases, it is seen that the institutions involved in providing microfinance to these people, they are non-cooperative with SHGs. Yes. And the role of NGOs too is not that good. Once we have found the problem areas, we can go and make it proper. And accordingly, since as we have taken ignorance part, so we'll have to correct that one. As we have taken the raw materials, problem related to raw materials, training, marketing, These are the one that we need to tackle properly. In fund management, fund allocation, we'll have to do something better, something good. We'll have to create a proper monitoring system where we need to monitor the things properly, how things go on. So when we do some such corrections, this scheme will definitely work at sound level and the result will be quite adequate. Right, so that's way you'll have to write your answer. Well, the next question is National Education Policy 2020 is in conformity with the Sustainable Development Goal for 2030. It intends to restructure and reorient education system in India. Critically examine the statement. Okay. NEP. That is one. Highlight. Is in conformity with what? SDG, Sustainable Development Goal 4, 2030. And yes, it intends to restructure, reorient education system in India, and you have to critically examine it. Critically examine. So it's not just you need to show like it is in conformity. You have to critically examine what are flaws in this policy, what further, how the same could be corrected upon. And if we really want to restructure and reorient, is this policy sufficient to do the same or not? So that will critically examine. First of all, NEP 2020. Most of things, NEP 2019, it's the agenda we had that time. Most of things were taken, a few corrections, and then after we got this policy related to education system, and the objective was to restructure and reorient the education system, no doubt. The new things which are added, like one thing, what should be the pattern up to 12th standard? What should be pattern? So it is said that it should be something like 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. A child's education starts after 3 years of age, and it goes up to 18 years to complete 12th standard. 3 years of age means this 5 is divided into 3 plus 2. 3 means preschooling. Preschooling that involves 1 year preparatory, then nursery, KG, which is not included in like standard 1, 2, 3, 4. Then after starts standard 1 and 2. So this first 3 is related to same, and a child starts at the age of 3 and at completing 6 years. The child completes nursery. It may be given some other names, but by completing 6 years, the child completes nursery stage, and then after get attached to enroll to class 1. Class 1 plus class 2. So these 2 years, and by this time 8 years. Child has completed 8 years. Then 3 means class 3 plus 4 plus 5. That is, this is foundation stage, this is preparatory stage. Then next 3 is middle stage. This is again like class 6 plus 7 plus 8. And next 4 means this is upper middle stage, and here we have class 9 plus 10 plus 11 plus 12. Now child is 11 years in this after completing this one. 14 years after completing and 18 years after completing this one. The child completes 12th standard by completing 18 years of age. So this is the basic thing, though this is something which is not new. In many private schools, the same pattern goes on. But now our government wants uniformity everywhere, whether it is government school, any particular board, everywhere the same pattern will be there, uniform pattern will be there. And uniformly it is provided to all boys and girls. This is something which is part of SDG goal 4. So there is conformity at this level. SDG goal 4 says that all boys and girls uniformly they should get, they should get uniform education up to this standard, 12th standard. And another thing that the GER, gross enrollment ratio, it should be 100%, 1 or 100%. This is something which is taken in NEP 2020 as well. So there is conformity. Same thing. Well, apart from this, in this policy, it is further said that the child will learn up to 5th standard, and it goes up to 8th standard as well. The child will learn in one's own mother tongue or regional language, local language, whatever prevails there. No language will be imposed on the child. Everywhere, all children, they would learn 5th standard and up to 8th standard in their mother tongue. Then after, priority will be given to mother tongue, but other things could be taken, alternatives are given. There is further, it is prioritized for the children to learn other Indian languages and focusing on Sanskrit as language. Though none of the child is forced to take Sanskrit, but it is prioritized. If you take it, it is good because it is something which is related to our culture as well. And since it is highly enriched language, so it is important for all the children to learn it. Well, apart from that, it is also said that the teacher minutely observes the activities of children up to 5th standard, and accordingly their activities will be diverted. No doubt that they have some fixed curriculum, educational curriculum, but apart from that, once it is observed that a child is good in some particular activity, in sports activity, in music, in dance, in vocal, in art, architect, whatever, the child is good. Accordingly, the children will be shaped. They will be given some extra focus on those ones so that we could take the children in that particular direction. And it is also said that the focus is there on vocational education too, and that starts from standard 6. It is also part of SDG 4 that all boys and girls, they would be provided equally, they would be provided all educational facilities, even vocational education on equal ground without any discrimination. And that is taken here. As far as vocational education is concerned, it starts from standard 6 itself. As far as board exams are concerned, 10th and 12th, there is a possibility to break it in semesters just to free children from some particular burden. And apart from that, focus should be on MCQs, multiple choice questions. So that way, there should be focus. Again, the purpose is to lessen the burden of examination on children that has poorly affected children in so many ways. Their health, their mental health, all those. So, the purpose is to give them a healthy life while learning the things. in all these, the way the whole curriculum is created, the focus is on to learn without burden. There was in 1993 Yashpal Committee on Education, and it focused on it, given this phrase, learning without burden. So there is a focus, and that point is taken here, and children will learn without having any burden, without having any feeling of burden. So in that way, they are given opportunities to learn by doing the things by their own hands, by their own experiences, experiments. There is focus on multiple languages. Apart from that, ancient knowledge, wide knowledge based things. That is something which is provided. There is focus on morality, social responsibility, community learning, and apart from all these, there is focus on scientific temperament as well. It does not mean that only traditional things that children are going to learn. Today, what is important, scientific temperament, that too is equally important, and the focus is there on that too. And yes, digital literacy is part of it. So there's so many things which are nicely attached in this policy, and in that way, it really seems as if it is going to restructure and reorient education system. Apart from that, as far as teachers are concerned, and that is part of this SDG 4 as well. So we require trained teachers and adequate number of teachers, so that the quality education is not affected. To provide quality education to all, there is requirement of properly trained teachers, adequate number of teachers, and that is taken here in that way. Teachers are not supposed to be involved in other activities like midday meal and doing different activities related to census and all those. They will be freed from those ones, and then they are supposed to focus on entirely on education system, how to teach, how to make children learn properly. So the focus is there on that part. There is some special attention on children with disability. MPhil is taken out as far as higher education is concerned, but even in that too, there is for entry and exit, there is multiple entry and exit system. At any point of time, you can get entry, you can exit. It's not compulsory for you to attain all 3 years or 4 years of graduation system. If someone who completes 1 year of graduation, then a certificate is given to the concerned person. After completing 2 years, advanced diploma certificate is given. After completing 3 years, degree certificate is given. And after completing 4 years, degree with research is provided. So MPhil is not required. That is taken out of it. As far as GER is concerned, gross enrollment ratio, I think you understand this one. What is GER? GER means all the children in any particular age, which is supposed to be the age of one particular standard. Like suppose we talk about of 11th, 12th, and that age is 17, 18 years, right? So all the children who are in that particular age group, we have to see how many of them got enrolled in the schools, right? If 100% of the children got enrolled, it means that GER is equal to 1. In percentage, it is 100%. So that is called GER. Well, in 2018, at higher level, in higher education, the GER was around 26%, but the target is to achieve 50% GER in the coming years. And by 2030, we have to achieve 50%. At school level, we have to achieve 100%, and at college level, we have to achieve 50% of GER. Well, so this is something, there are certain things which are part of our national education policy, important things are related to it. And now we'll see where are we lacking, what problems may come, right? As far as this SDG 4 is concerned, so many things we have already taken. One more point that is related to gender sensitivity and disability sensitivity. So our education system must be sensitive to disability as well as gender issues, and that is something which already we have discussed, that it is already in our policy. So also there is conformity. So there is no doubt that the National Education Policy 2020 is in conformity with the Sustainable Development for 2030. There is no doubt about it. But the big question is that is it really going to intend? It is really intending to restructure and reorient education system. Really, there are certain things, some problems are there. In our country, in different states, different boards are there. It is very difficult to bring them to one platform. Very, very difficult. Of course, we are going to have one curriculum, one education curriculum, and it means that a uniform pattern everywhere. This is something which is going to be a big challenge. Without having the agreement of the states, concerned authorities, we have gone for this policy that may face some problems related to the same thing. Another thing, that easy entry is given to the children to go abroad for higher education, and that is something which is going to be quite available to rich children, not to poor children. So there is a big gap which is in the offing, which is going to be created on class basis. So also it is not that good. But the biggest question is that, are we going to have a quality education? What is the provision for quality education? What provision do we have? Earlier, before this, we had some schemes, Abhiyan, Ramsa, राष्ट्रीय माध्यमिक शिक्षा अभियान, रूसा, राष्ट्रीय उच्चतर शिक्षा अभियान, up to 12th standard, 9 to 12th standard, Ramsa, and University College level, RUSA. It was started in 2009, they started in 2013. Both focused on quality education, but so far, we really did not get that level of quality education. What is the problem? Particularly in RUSA, there is focus on innovation, research and development. But the thing is that, who will do the same? Who will be part of innovation in education system and R&D? We require capable people as teachers, researchers. But do we have capable people? There is no dearth of people having that level of potential in our country. But the problem is that the people with that potential do not like to be teacher. They move in some other fields. Those who are doing their engineering degree from IITs, their masters from IIMs, they take on respective jobs as engineers, as managers. They try to move away, try to go abroad because they get huge packages out there. Fine. The kind of package which we provide to our teachers, that is very minimal, very low. And so teaching as a profession has become a low priority job. Generally, people first try the best one, means becoming an engineer, a manager, a doctor with huge packages, going abroad, that is top priority. Then after, if none of the, apart from that, they try to go to civil services. When they get none of these, then they try to, move in a teaching job. It is part of alternative which they have with them. It's not part of passion, no, that they have. But in America, in developed countries, in even Singapore, it is part of passion for the people. And so they have quality teachers. Those quality teachers, they provide quality education. That's the reason out of 200 universities, 300 universities worldwide, they have maximum numbers. India is nowhere. So does it mean that we need to provide good package, high package to our teachers to attract them? Well, to show it, we need to take one committee report, that is N.R. Narayan committee's report, N.R. Narayan Murthy committee's report, and in that he compared the developed countries' education system, our education system. He showed that we require a lot of money. For R&D, we require money. To give packages to teachers, we require money. And Indian government does not have that sufficient money. So it is important that we privatize the education system, particularly the higher education system. We go for privatization. Well, in that, what they would do, they have no problem of money fund. They would apply that fund. They would go for R&D, the way it is done in developed countries. They would hire top level teachers with huge packages. No doubt that we will be having, thereafter we'll be having quality education. That teachers, they would remain there on their performance basis. So there is a provision even here also in NEP, performance-based promotion, but that would work when we have quality people, able people, ablest people. So let it give to private hands. And for that, he suggested that the Prime Minister of India should invite 25 top entrepreneurs and industrialists to come forward and start universities and all those. But no doubt that that education system is very, very costly and non-affordable to poor children. So those who are intelligent, poor children, they will be provided adequate scholarship and free of cost education will be provided to them. For that, a scholarship fund is needed, and he talked about a scholarship fund that worth rupees 1,000 crores, wherein there would be involvement of some industrialists, and the kind of they would give some donations. But Indian government would provide them something to them, like whatever donation they are providing, the tax coming out of it. So 3 times of that tax, means 300% tax exemption must be provided to them. If someone who is giving 100 crores of rupees, the tax comes up as 30 crores. So 300% or 3 times means 90 crores exemption, tax exemption. So they also don't mind, and they would go donate that money. Apart from that, we need a huge national debt fund that is equivalent to rupees 1 lakh crores that must be preserved for future development. So when all these things are done, no doubt that we go for quality education. So that is something still we require. This policy is still not sufficient, because what we did earlier and in this policy, not much changes there, except they change a few words, but not much changes there. We require proper change. We require proper modification in the same. Yes, complete transformation. For complete transformation, we need to do something which we haven't done so far. And that way, to some extent, or to great extent, N.R. Narayana Murthy's report, his suggestions are very vital. And once we take that one, yes, no doubt that every person, all children are not going for higher education. That is not important. So those who are not able enough, those who are not going for higher education, they must be provided vocational education, proper training, so that they could start something on their own, and those people are also not going to be unemployed. So employment is not going to be a problem for anyone. Yes, he has given a proper meaning, proper suggestion on education system. If accordingly we create a policy as such, that would really work. There are flaws in this policy. So in that, you have to examine this one and you have to write your answer. I hope you got good inputs. Still, if you have some feedback, you can definitely write to the concerned place and we'll take the same into account. Wish you all the best. Take care.